Greetings, darling viewers. Today is Tuesday, October 20th, 2015. Welcome to another edition of Leafing Through Books and Tea. Today is Tea Review Tuesday, and we're going to be talking about breakfast. And specifically, we're going to be talking about the breakfast teas. Now, these are particular teas that are black teas, and there are three different types, but we're going to be focusing today primarily on two of them. And so the three different types are the English breakfast tea, the Irish breakfast tea, and the Scottish breakfast tea. And the English and Irish are going to be our focus today. So there's lots of different brands that make the teas, and you can select from your favorites. But English breakfast tea and Irish breakfast tea and Scottish breakfast tea are so called because they tend to be very strong and hearty black teas that that balance very well with a good, hearty, strong English or Irish breakfast, which tends to be one of the heaviest meals of the day, traditionally. So when we talk about these teas today, we're going to be just to compare apples to apples rather than apples to oranges. We're going to be talking about the Twinings teas and the English breakfast and the Irish breakfast. And those we're taking on Twinings because they're a very standard brand and a lot of name recognition, and they've been around for hundreds of years, literally 300 years or so, since the 1700s. So they have been in this tea game for a very long time. And so the differences between each of the three types of blends is that when we say it's a blend, most of the time when I talk about tea blends, I am talking about tea blended with another ingredient. So that can be a fruit, that can be a flower, that can be a spice. But in terms of these tea blends, it is always black tea. That is the only ingredient. With a breakfast blend, however, you're getting tea from the leaves are coming from different sources. So there are four crops that are grown in the world that where they are grown has a great deal to do with their taste, and more so than anything that is added in the process later on. And those four different crops are coffee, tea, chocolate, and wine. Now, wine we're going to take right out of this conversation because wine has all sorts of other things that make it that affect its taste and flavor. So there's actually different types of grapes, where the grapes are grown, what the barrels are like, how long they're fermented. There's lots of steps in the process. With chocolate, it's difficult to find single origin chocolates. They can be found, and Cello Chocolates is local to me, and I have tried their single origin chocolates and love them very much. And you can actually check on the website for a previous post about what they offer. But with coffees, you can get single origin, and they're often, so when you go to your local coffee shop, be that Starbucks, Peet's, or whatever local coffee shop you go to, and I hope you support local businesses as well, but you'll see a single origin coffee. So you'll see it's from Costa Rica, or it's from Sumatra, or it's from Colombia. And that will mean that the bean was grown in that country of origin or in that region of a particular country. Single origin teas generally come from China, but they can also be single origin down to a region because China is a very large country. And so the regional differences will affect the tea, and it will affect the growing. So when we talk about the breakfast blends, what we're talking about is a blend of tea leaves from different regions. And in the breakfast blends, they started off with Chinese tea leaves, but there was a tea embargo several hundred years ago. And so they switched over to the India teas. And so you have when you talk about the breakfast blends, what you talk about now is a blend of primarily Assam tea, which is from India, which is from a region of India, and then you also have the Ceylon teas, or teas from Sri Lanka, and then sometimes they will blend in a little bit of Indonesian tea leaves as well. But you have to have that Ceylon and Assam component in order for it to be a breakfast tea blend. And there is no percentage, however, on how much of a certain blend should be, how much of a certain origin the tea leaves should use. Every company is going to have their own proprietary recipe for these, and so because of that, there's going to be subtle differences from company to company. And so when we're talking about so I wanted to do Twinings again because you're going to get the same company, so their flavor is going to be consistent from tea bag to tea bag because of that, and you're comparing them apples to apples. And so the English tea blend, the English breakfast blend, is the Ceylon and Assam components, but more of an emphasis on the Ceylon, or again the Sri Lankan, the tea leaves. And then the Irish breakfast will have more of the Assam component, or the Assam region of India. Now, what that makes in terms of the difference in the tea is that English breakfast is going to have, it's going to be a strong flavor and a fairly bold flavor, but it's going to be smooth and not really have any variations. It's going to be a fairly smooth tea, and so it really is the most basic of those three different types: the English and the Irish and the Scottish. The Scottish teas tend to be very strong, the strongest of the three, and it's believed that it's because they had to counteract the water in Scotland, which is just as strong as the Scots themselves. And so the water, they thought that making the tea a bit stronger and bolder would balance the water that was available in Scotland. Now, whether that's true or whether that's a completely apocryphal story, I have no idea. But that's been the convention on that for a long time. With the English breakfast, you're getting a smoother tea. With the Irish breakfast, you actually get a malted quality. The Assam leaves tend to make a more malted sort of flavor, but it's at the very end and it's at the finish of a good Irish breakfast tea, and you'll taste it in the finish. But it's not so malted that it reminds you of beer. It is just a slight bit at the end, and it's very subtle. Most of the time, breakfast teas are taken the same way that you take coffee. So if you drink it black, then you'll drink your tea black. If you take it with milk and sugar, then you'll add milk and sugar to your tea. And so that sort of habit, this is more of the let's talk your daily cuppa and your daily tea, just like in America, our daily coffee. This will be, you will have loyalty to a brand or to a particular flavor or particular origin. For me, and because I drink black tea every day, my favorite tea is the Yorkshire tea, which is basic black, and it is an an English breakfast tea in the most basic level, but there is a difference between. While they are subtle, there is actually a difference between the traditional English breakfast and a Yorkshire tea. And so I like the smoother, even smoother flavor for them. For an Irish breakfast tea, if you're going to go traditional on this, you can go as traditional as Barry's. And they've been making teas for a long time. But these are entirely up to you, and your flavor preferences will out. But enjoy one and try it first without the milk and sugar, and then add the milk and sugar to your taste. So enjoy your breakfast tomorrow, and enjoy it with a bit of a British tea or an Irish tea. Enjoy. See you next time.